Welcome to Studio 865. The future of local music is on the air on UTTV and WUOT FM.
Today on Studio 865, we're talking with guitar player, singer, educator, world traveler Steve Kaufman. Steve, thanks a lot for coming in.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
And it's kind of amazing that you're this flat picking, finger picking, acoustic musician primarily, but in your household growing up, it was more classical and jazz, right?
It was more. Well, my dad was a jazz piano player, and my mother was a sight reading classical piano player. But the music that she had us listen to, my dad died when I was about 8, and what was neat about the way my dad played was he could hear anything on the radio and just play it. It was really cool, and he could read music, but he chose not to, because it's faster.
Yeah.
It's faster just by ear. So, but my mother couldn't do that. But she had us listening to Lionel Hampton and Duke and all kinds of jazz stuff, and Cleo Lane, and then she introduced me to Chet Atkins, and I had the same comment everybody else does when they hear Chet play. You mean that's one person doing that? So it was always there.
Yeah, and so today you're playing a number of tunes, but you did. Let me put on my spectacles. Windy and Warm and Lover Come Back to Me. I hear a little bit of Chet Atkins in that.
Well, Windy and Warm was written by J.D. Loudermilk, and it was written for Chet. And I don't think that, from what I understand, that J.D. never heard Chet really get the finished version out. But that's a. And let's back that up. It was written for Chet, but I heard Doc do it, and I stole it right away from Doc. So my version has more Doc in it. The difference between the two pickers, since we're talking technical here, is Chet would use 5 fingers, and Doc played like Merle Travis, and Merle Travis only used a thumb and 1 finger. I have to use 2 fingers and a thumb. I can't get by with that with the Travis way. And then the second tune was one that, speaking of which, is that my mother would play for us when we were kids. And I never learned it until maybe a year ago. And it's been rolling around in my head forever. And I finally picked up a guitar and it just kind of fell into place. And that's how I learned that song. When I do something like that, I don't arrange it. I just play it.
Yeah.
Ooh, spooky.
And you really don't think about, oh, I think I'll do a jazz treatment on this, or I'll do.
It's whatever comes out is what comes out, and that's the way it is. And I know that's got to sound strange, but no, I don't arrange things like that. And,
So you're a spontaneous musician.
More or less, yeah. Now, later on they'll hear a version of Greensleeves, and that's an arrangement. Well, as is, Windy and Warm is somewhat an arrangement. I know the chord structure. I know what the bass line's going to be because that's cast in stone. But as far as the melody goes, I did some stuff in it here that I've never done before. But the camera's rolling and you don't stop. So you just keep going. So I was kind of surprised with it as well. And, they'll see it. They'll see when I did something. I remember that.
Speaking of spontaneous, I read this story about where you were playing backstage with Doc Watson and some great musicians, and then they said, "Hey, well, you want to come out on stage and play?" And then you end up being on a record with Doc Watson. And
yeah. It was actually it was real fun. It was Donna Dixon and I had just gotten married, and only for 1 month, and there I was playing at Merle Fest. I had been doing it for about 6 years before that, maybe 7 years. And Merle Fest, if you don't know, is Doc Watson's son Merle died in a tragic accident, and they have this festival in his honor to raise funds for the awareness, and I did it for quite a while. But anyway, I'm sitting back in Doc's dressing room picking with Jack Lawrence. We're just playing stuff, and Doc's sitting there, ready to go on, and he just perked up. He said, Steve, I'm about to go up on stage with Dan Crary and Tony Rice. Do you want to go? It was like, well, duh. And so I went out there and I said, well, I don't know what we're going to play. I went to the stage manager and he said, Doc will tell you, and that's basically what it was. But I didn't know also that it was being filmed for PBS. I had never been on that big stage at Merle Fest where there was 50,000 people in the audience, and they had cameras swinging from wires just like an NFL football game, And I didn't know it was being filmed. And it ended up coming out on PBS and then as a DVD that people can actually find on my website.
Yeah.
Is that a segue?
Oh, well, yeah. What is the name of your website? Charlie or Ed or?
Well, surprisingly, it's Flatpick, but it's spelled differently because our phone number, 800 number, is the same, FLATPIK.com. And I keep my instructional stuff on there, my web lessons now, and just everything.
Well, speaking of your lessons and your teaching, obviously you started out as a very serious, in terms of the amount of time you put into it, a very serious musician and very, very focused on playing. When did this start evolving into also teaching in the music camps? Was there an actual moment where you thought, hey, I should maybe try teaching this to people?
Well, teaching, I hitchhiked around the country right out of high school, and I would sleep on the side of the road. I did for two seasons, and I would go to festivals that had guitar contests, and I would win the contest, and that would give me money to go on to the next one. And I had my Bluegrass Unlimited, and I would just look for where's the next one that's en route to somewhere, you know. And I'd go there, and fortunately I'd win it, and give me some dough. So anyway, I finally met a guy. He said, "Why don't you come to Maryville and you can teach in my store?" And the store's no longer there. It was above the Down Yonder Saloon. And I didn't realize at that time in '76 that parents didn't want to bring their kids into a building that had a saloon in it. So I was basically starving over there, had 10 students a week or so. And I finally went over to Tommy Covington in Maryville, who was the icon of teaching in Maryville. And he's the one that actually taught me how to teach. And he said, "You know, I was going to come up and see you because our teacher left. Do you want the job?" I said, "Sure." And he said, "Here's 65 students." And overnight, I went from $40, making $40 a week, to 65 students now. 45 that was like 10 students a week is all I could ever get in that building. So anyway, and then that's kind of how I started. So I was teaching for quite a while, and then I was still entering contests. I'd go out to Winfield. I won that I got second in '77, won it in '78. When you win that, you're barred for 5 years, come back on the 6th. So I went back in '84 and won it then. Then they opened it up in '86. They opened it up, '78 and '84. And then '86 they opened it up to everybody. And so no one was barred, and I went back and won that one in '86. It was a special 30th year, I think, is what it was. And so they did that. So I had the contest stuff, and around that time is when, in '90, is when I was put in touch with Mel Bay and Homespun, and two of the greatest companies in the world to work for. Mel Bay does all the, they put all their books into the retail stores, and Homespun was putting all their instructional stuff into the home market. And I was actually a top writer on both of those companies that were actually in competition with each other. I was the only one I knew that worked with both these companies that were in competition. And so that put me in the home, that put me in the stores. Then I started doing workshops. I would call up a music store to say, "Do you want me to come in and do a workshop? My name's Steve, I won the net," and they'd cut me off and say, "I know who you are, I'm looking at your books right now." And it didn't matter where I called in the country, you know, usually they had my stuff in stock because it was doing really well, as it still is. And anyway, so it was kind of neat. So I've been doing the workshops for about 22 years now, where we call it Kaufman University Coming to You. My next trip, I'll be in Tempe, Arizona. After that, I go to outside Chicago, and it just every weekend somewhere, which is great. But after a couple years early on, my wife Donna said, "You know, you could do one of your workshops here at the college in Maryville." And that's kind of how it got started there. But when I looked at it, I had a different idea. I think she wanted me to do my regular workshop so I'd stay home for a week. She was raising a young boy that I was missing on the weekends. I was home during the week, but missing on the weekends. And so anyway, I saw the facilities that they had, and I thought we can make this bigger than my regular workshop. And she and I have been doing this now this is our 20th year at Maryville College, and we'll have maybe upwards of 750 students now.
Wow. Well, it's funny you mention that, because one time years ago I was hiking through England on some of the footpaths, and someone stopped me and said, "Oh, where are you from?" I said, "Tennessee." And they said, "Oh, do you know where Maryville is?" I went, "Yeah, I know where Maryville is. It's not far from where I'm from Knoxville." So, "Oh yeah, Knoxville, yeah, that's where the airport is." And I said, "Yeah, we go to Steve Kaufman's camp." I go, "Really?" It's like, "Do you know who he is?" Like, "Yeah, of course. I'm from East Tennessee."
Now when I was young and in my prime, I left my home in Caroline. Now all I do is sit and pine about the folks I left behind. I've got them Blue Ridge Mountain Blues, and I'll stand right here and say, my grip is packed to travel, and I'll soon be scratching gravel on that Blue Ridge far away. Let's pick one now. Now I see a window with a light. I see two heads of snowy white. I can hear both of them recite, where is my wandering boy tonight? I've got them Blue Ridge Mountain Blues, and I'll stand right here and say, my grip is packed to travel, and I'll soon be scratching gravel on that Blue Ridge far away. Let's play one more. Now I'm gonna do right by my mom. I'm gonna do right by my pa. I'm gonna hang around this cabin door with no work or worry anymore. I've got them Blue Ridge Mountain Blues, and I'll stand right here and say, my grip is packed to travel, and I'll soon be scratching gravel on that Blue Ridge far away. My grip is packed to travel, and I'll soon be scratching gravel on that Blue Ridge far away.
Did you think when you took that teaching gig over the Down Yonder Saloon that you would end up living in Maryville, Tennessee, or living in East Tennessee?
Well, it's neat. I did a trip into Durango one time. And I called Donna as soon as I landed and checked in the hotel, and I said, "Ooh, Durango is so cool. Let's pack everything. Let's move to Durango." And as the weekend was going on, it's still a great city. But I was thinking, why would I ever want to really leave East Tennessee? You have the beauty of it here. I told Donna, we were talking about it just yesterday. We looked at the mountains and said, man, we've got the best of both worlds right here. And there's no need to leave. And I can get to the airport in a few minutes and fly to anywhere. I can work on the West Coast tonight. If I need to, I can go the other way over the water and get to England or Europe and work the next day. Anywhere on the East Coast to the Mid. So the airport is so convenient for us here, and the beauty is here. And then you have the nice people of East Tennessee who are not to be beat,
Of which now you're one.
I'm proud to be, and my boy's a local.
Yeah. So tell me about this guitar you're playing today. It is an absolute beauty. It looks beautiful and it sounds amazing.
Well,
you built that out of balsa wood?
Yeah, it was a airplane model first, and I just moved some of the pieces. And
it also flies.
I'm glad you asked me that, Todd. That's it's built by Ken Miller. He lives in North Carolina now. He was in Tallahassee, and you can find him at Ken Miller Guitars plural.com. And that guitar is number 100. It's made of flowered babinga back and sides, which babinga is an African rosewood. So it's basically a rosewood sound guitar, which is what I like, and it has a Adirondack or a red spruce top, and then it's got a bunch of fancy stuff on it because that was his number 100, and he wanted to make a real special one.
And I know there are guitar heads watching. What kind of strings do you use?
I use, I'm glad you asked that, Todd.
You made some out of balsa wood? Yeah. From an old abandoned...
Old tooth floss, yeah. No, I use DR strings, or medium gauge, 13 to a 56, and they made them for me about 30 years ago. And they last me forever. In fact, that's maybe the original set on that guitar right now. They last that long. No, they're made up north, and they're handmade strings, but they're cheap. They're, $8 or $10 a set, but they're great strings, those DR.
Yeah. Tell me about Jailhouse Blues. That's one of my favorites. How'd you pick that one?
I heard Doc do it on the radio.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, Doc was my hero.
Was it great to meet him and get to play with him?
It was like a dream come true. I've been very, very fortunate. I was good friends with Doc. Rosalie, his wife, I knew very well. With Norman Blake and with Dan Crary, the Kings, Tony Rice, and they're just regular folk. Which is so nice about it when you meet these guys. Doc, I did a video with him. That's an instructional one, not the one that you've mentioned. The one you talked about is called Doc's Guitar Jam. Then I did another one called Flat Picking with Doc, where Homespun pulled me in as the Doc Watson aficionado, and said that Doc can't explain what he does, so. Go ahead and anyway. So I did that one. I wrote a book on Doc Watson, the legacy of Doc Watson, and but through that he met our son. And this is the way Doc Watson was. If you like your grandfather, you're going to like Doc Watson. Because I'd go up to him, and you have to say who you are. Hey Doc, this is Steve. Right away he'd say, "Where's that boy of yours?" That's all he wanted to do. "Where's that boy of yours? Bring him over here."
Well, now looking out the window at the street, these jailhouse floors are hurting my feet. I've got the lonesome jailhouse blues. When out friends of mine, they're passing by, they could get me out of here if only they'd try. I've got the lonesome jailhouse blues. I've got the lonesome jailhouse blues. I've got the lonesome jailhouse blues. When out friends of mine, they're passing by, they could get me out of here if only they'd try. I've got the lonesome jailhouse blues. My good gal don't love me no more. She had a smile on her face when they slammed the door. I've got the lonesome jailhouse blues. Well, they put me away for 6 months' time. Judge said he did it 'cause I only had a dime. I've got the lonesome jailhouse blues. I've got the lonesome jailhouse blues. I've got the lonesome jailhouse blues. Well, now they put me away for 6 months' time. Judge said he did it 'cause I only had a dime. I've got the lonesome jailhouse blues. Let's play a lonesome. I've got the lonesome jailhouse. I've got the lonesome jailhouse blues. Well, now they put me away for 6 months' time. Judge said he did it 'cause I only had a dime. I've got the lonesome jailhouse blues. I've got the lonesome jailhouse. I've got the lonesome jailhouse blues.
Steve Kaufman, thanks so much for joining us today. And Durango, Colorado, I'm really sorry that you lost out, even though they do have the best webless rancheros in the world at Durango Diner, by the way, if anybody's gone out there. Hey, thanks for coming and playing for us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.
It's a pleasure.
Studio 865, Steve Kaufman, music, entertainment, all for you.